Hello everyone and welcome to this very special video that is going to be talking all about the upcoming exhibitors for FlightSimExpo 2020. My name is Calum from the FSElite team and I'm joined by Evan, one of the co-founders from FlightSimExpo. Over the next 20 to 30 minutes we're going to be showcasing with you everyone that is so far confirmed to exhibit at FlightSimExpo 2020, which is being held in Las Vegas during June 12th to the 14th, 2020. So we are very, very excited. We have so much to talk about. Evan, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at FlightSimExpo.
Hi Calum, good to see you and good to be here from a beautiful hotel room in Washington, D.C. where I am on a layover and putting the company's layover time to good use. As many of you guys know, outside of my job in the aviation industry, I'm one of the two co-founders of FlightSimExpo. So between myself and Phil, we're pretty much responsible for trying to put the show together. And that involves everything from reaching out to exhibitors and developers to doing this kind of announcement and working with the community to share the news that we have about what's going on. And we're very excited to be here today with this video. First time we've tried to do a release in this kind of format, but I think it's exciting and certainly a lot to share. Certainly what we've seen in past years by comparison to this year, we're very excited with the number of exhibitors, the caliber of exhibitors. I think people are going to be very excited, and especially when you realize this is just the first announcement of what will be several as we get closer and closer to June.
So we are back in Vegas, the origin story almost for FlightSimExpo. So why Vegas and why the location?
Well, it all comes down to the community. So over the past 2 years or so, we've done surveys of our developers, of our attendees, and of basically anyone who will talk to us, we're willing to listen to. And out of those, we've picked some cities that made sense. We did our location scouting, we put our venue people on it, and at the end of the day, Vegas being a top choice of our attendees, we were able to find a great property. The Tropicana is centrally located on the Strip. It's right connected to 3 other casinos, and of course you can walk anywhere you want along the Strip, and of course there's all kinds of great restaurants, bars, activities, nightlife, and everything to do not only in and around the Tropicana and at the Strip, but in Vegas in general.
I think, being back in Vegas obviously has a lot of memories for people, and like you said, the show has just grown exponentially, even between Las Vegas back in 2018 and then Orlando last year in 2019. So obviously there's a lot kind of riding on this show, and I think from the exhibitor list we're going to showcase very shortly, people are really committed to this show and kind of see the energy and the passion from flight simmers and why it's so important to kind of be at these events to really engage and talk with the community.
Well, for sure. I mean, the growth is amazing. We're going to look in a few minutes at the exhibitor list. I think at this time last year for Orlando, we might have had 3 or 4 people that were on the list, and we weren't even looking at an announcement. Here we are just a couple of days after we opened our exhibitor registration for Vegas, and well, you're about to see quite a list of names. So we're very excited about that. Of course, our first year in Vegas, 1,100 attendees. Last year in Orlando, we were up above 1,600. So that growth is continuing to show up, and we're seeing more and more developers sending us emails, more and more companies, even that are not necessarily directly in the flight sim space, but that are just interested in this stuff, passionate about simulation, and they're reaching out to us and saying, hey, I've heard about your event. We've heard great things. We'd love to be part of it. So that's very exciting for us.
Yeah, and equally, the more exhibitors that come, the more attendees will then hopefully come as well. So that just means as the shows continue throughout the years, we're just going to see more and more growth. And then hopefully those destinations you mentioned before, which didn't quite fit the spec for this time, maybe you can kind of have those shows in the future there.
Yeah, of course. And every year we look at attendee surveys and we look at developer feedback. We look at venues across the country. In fact, I'm going to have a look at one tomorrow. And so we do this quite a bit and try to find the best possible venues. But there's so many factors that go into it. And we're not a big corporate conference. We don't have companies paying attendees way. So we've got to look at things like room rates and airfares and how easy is it to get from the airport to the hotel. And for people who are coming from overseas, do they have to rent a car? Can they get there via Uber? We try to look at all these factors and make it as easy as possible for people to make that decision to attend the event and to be able to get there easily.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the drawing points as well. For me personally, of Vegas, it's a long way for me to travel, but there's also lots of stuff to do there, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But first, let's start talking exhibitors, what people are really here to kind of find out about. So if you head over to the FlightSimExpo website, you will see already there is a list of several diamond sponsors, and those are the people who have kind of committed already and are really, really dedicated to the success of this show. So maybe you can just kind of briefly talk about why diamond sponsorship, or those people are kind of really key at kind of making sure the first steps of the show really happen.
Oh, at FlightSimExpo, we call ourselves North America's community-driven conference, and we really mean that. So what we did for the Orlando show is we looked at this diamond sponsor program. We said, okay, rather than have maybe one or two title level sponsors, let's try to split that across the community so everyone can see that there are a large number of different developers who are supporting the conference, and that there is no one big sort of overarching decision body that might be able to say, well, hey, I spent 50 grand to be the sponsor of this show, so I want this to happen. This way, with the diamond sponsorship, you have a number of companies that have shown how committed they are to simulation and that are able to provide that financial support that gets the conference going. And so each of these companies we're going to talk about has a huge role to play in making this event happen. For those of you who are watching this, you're probably already flight simulation fans, and that's wonderful. We need as many simmers to come out to the show to meet these developers, to buy their products. That's fantastic. But for the developers that attend, it's also important to reach new customers. So if you're watching this, you probably already have Orbix scenery. You probably already use Navigraph charts. What those companies want to see is someone who's brand new to simulation, who comes in for the very first time at our show in Vegas and says, oh, this stuff is cool. I want to go buy that. I want to go buy that. I want to go buy that. In order for us to get there, we need that financial support. Last year in Orlando, we did radio advertising in the local area. We advertised at Sun and Fun, which is a big air show located about an hour southwest there in Lakeland, Florida. We did advertising on Facebook. We're really trying to reach that 500 or 600 new simmer group that has never ever seen this stuff, or maybe that's dabbled in it but they're not really sure, and get them to come out to the show. So the diamond sponsors are what make that possible, and of course with the rest of the support they give us, really make the entire event.
Awesome. And so with that in mind, we're pretty excited, aren't we, to be kind of announcing the first confirmed exhibitors do mostly come from the diamond sponsors that we've just mentioned. So in alphabetical order, because I think that's the fairest way to do. The first one we can announce is that Honeycomb Aeronautical will be exhibiting. They have a big booth. Obviously, if you're unaware of what they've done in the past, they've produced the Honeycomb Alpha Yoke and are currently also developing their Bravo throttle controls as well. So that's one of the first big ones, and as a hardware specialist, I think it's really, really important people go, because they can actually get their hands on this product as well.
Yeah, they were actually one of the first, I think it was last show when they were in Orlando, was one of the first times you could actually try that yoke, like in person. No one had ever seen it, no one had ever tried it. So that was very exciting for us, and we're really happy to have them back in a big way this year. When I was speaking to them over the summer, and both actually in Cosford as well, back in the fall, we were talking about how important it was, and he said he really wanted to have a big booth. He really wanted to have a big presence this year. So we're very excited to welcome them on as a first-time diamond sponsor.
Excellent. Awesome. And second, Navigraph are back. This is their third consecutive year. And if you haven't been before, these guys always know how to put on a really impressive looking kind of booth and stand. Do you remember what they had last year in particular?
They had hot sauce one year, right? Was that last year or 2 years ago?
I think that was in Vegas originally.
Vegas,
yeah. That stuff was spicy.
I don't remember what they had last year, but it was something else like that. Oh, was it the koozies, or that was Vegas too?
Oh, I don't know, but they always have some. I remember the floor mat in particular. It was kind of
that thing is awesome.
Yeah, with all the nav data and stuff. That was really cool. But those guys are awesome to chat to. They have a really cool kind of lounge-esque stand from what I remember before. Who knows what they'll do this year, but it's always exciting when those guys turn up, because they always come across with awesome new technology, and obviously with their charts and their nav data as well.
Well, I love their stuff. Like, actually, at my old job, which was a much smaller airline than we are now, we were responsible for doing a whole lot more than we were. And it was actually the email from Navigraph that said we've updated our nav data to like this AirAct cycle. That email was like, oh, I gotta go update our GPSs. Like, that was my reminder to update the actual airplane. So they make fantastic stuff. I don't know how people fly without Navigraph nav data in like an NGX or anything like that, because you just you need it.
Definitely. And just as much as you need nav data, you need high quality scenery as well. So that nicely segues into introducing Orbix, who are going to also be a huge presence at the show, just as they have been in the past. Again, if you're not sure what Orbex are doing, they make really high quality scenery products. They've got hundreds of products already out, and as usual they tend to kind of showcase a whole wide berth of stuff kind of at these shows, both during their presentations and also just at their booth as well.
Yeah, I mean, Orbix and John specifically was a huge part of making Vegas happen in the first place. Real passionate about supporting this conference from day one, and really about supporting the simulation community. I mean, they've been title level sponsors for our event and for other events around the world, basically for the past 3 or 4 years. So we're very grateful for their continued support. And just like you said before about hardware, you know, it's really interesting when you look at a company that's the size of Orbix with so many different products. It's really interesting to be able to go and to see and to try a lot of these places before you actually make that decision to purchase.
Absolutely. And again, the other great thing we've noticed in the past with Orbix is that they bring a huge portion of their team along with them. So if you've ever had any questions or you want to speak to the developers who are behind some of your favorite scenery, then this is just the opportunity to do so.
Or pester them to make your home airport.
Moving on, so another scenery developer, Pilots. So they have just released Santiago de Compostela and also Tioman Island, which are 2 really breathtaking scenery products that have obviously had a lot of time. They've also had this thing called the Boeing Clipper in development for quite a while, and I remember they've been showing that thing off for many, many, many years. So hopefully, fingers crossed that this is the show that they kind of release, and maybe even kind of have lots of demonstrations for that as well. I'm not sure if you're aware, but last year they had some really impressive VR hardware also on display.
Yeah, I actually tried that out, and I mean, it was incredible. I forget what the price tag on it was. It was some super, super fancy VR headset none of us can afford, but it was really, really cool. And to be able to fly a couple of flights around their scenery using that was spectacular. So I really enjoyed that, and like that's the kind of thing, right? If you don't have VR at home, how on earth are you going to try that and see whether you like it and see what works with it, unless you come out to a show like this? And last year in Orlando, I mean, almost every other booth had a VR headset. Yeah. You could try a whole bunch of them. You could try them in X-Plane. You could try them in P3D. It was really cool to be able to do that comparison and then again decide what you like.
So moving on, just a little bit, we have 2 more confirmed Diamond sponsors that are going to be exhibiting at the show this year. First of which is xplane.org. So very soon we'll have a preview of kind of how the floor plan is looking, and you will immediately see just how much space these guys are going to be taking up this year. Almost kind of a whole section down the left hand side you'll see on the screen very soon. So can you tell us a little bit more maybe about what you think they might have planned this year, Evan?
Yeah, we're excited to have xplane.org on board this year. Again, a new Diamond sponsor. They were at the show last year and were supporting us with a couple of booths. And I think similar to what you saw last year, but in bigger scale, their plan is to have some of their partners, some of the developers who produce content for their site to be out there showcasing as well. So we're giving you the preview of what xplane.org is doing, but some of the details around who's going to be involved in that booth and some of the different people that might be part of it are actually still going to be coming up as we get closer to the show.
Which is equally as exciting. Xplane is still a hugely growing platform. And that brings us finally kind of to the close of the Diamond confirmed exhibitors of Laminar Research with Xplane 11. So again, they still have a huge presence at the show. I think they're on the right hand side, and again they've got several booths, and I think you said as well that they're going to have again some of their partners there with them, also showing off the simulator as well.
Yeah, again, Xplane has been a huge supporter of ours from day one with this show, and I think it's been really cool to see how that platform has grown. I mean, when I started into sim back in the FSX days and the early FSX days, and I know people like Phil have been around even longer than that. I mean, you hadn't even heard of Xplane, right? And now when people come into a FlightSimExpo for the first time, they're asking about Xplane, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just downloaded this sim. I mean, are there any other sims? Xplane is the best." Like, that's what people say, and it's really cool to see that it's become almost, if not a de facto choice, certainly one of the 2 or 3 that you'd consider if you're a regular desktop simmer versus 10 or 15 years ago when it really wasn't as popular as it is now. And the amount of development that's going on for Xplane is really cool to see, and I think that's a big part of what they're showcasing, is getting all those partners there so that people can see just how much Xplane has grown and what you can do with it these days.
And I just want to kind of talk a little bit about all these newcomers that potentially will be coming to the show as well, and they see X-Plane 11 for the first time, and obviously they'll look at it and go, wow, this is default stuff. But the other cool aspect of these shows is those guys at Laminar can go, yeah, this is default, but then if you want to expand your library, you've got Orbex over there, you've got this developer over here. Go check out xplane.org as well, because they can sell you all these add-ons. So for someone who's quite new to simulation, this is a really engaging opportunity and an easy way to kind of really start to understand the whole ecosystem and culture behind buying add-ons for the simulator as well, which I think is always quite daunting for those kind of new to the world of simulation.
Well, that's why it's so important to get these developers out to the show, is because if you take someone who's new to simulation, maybe they are a student pilot, they're looking at something they can use at home. If all they do is download a copy of X-Plane or P3D or Infinite Flight or whatever it is at home, and they don't talk on anyone, they don't talk online, they don't buy any add-ons, they just use what's there, they're not really getting that full experience. So they fly it for a couple weeks and they're like, okay, that was fun, but it's over. Whereas if they come to this show, now they're buying hardware, they're looking at add-ons, they want 40 different sceneries that they can't afford, so they're going to put them on a list. And now 2.5 years later, they're you and me, and they're saying, oh yeah, you know, we're super into this stuff because we love it. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're not looking at just, you know, creating this sort of person who downloads X-Plane once and walks away. We're creating some kind of an environment where people can learn about just how much there is, and they can learn about how many people and how much passion there is around this, and all of a sudden they're a simmer for life versus a simmer for a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And this is really kind of the golden age for simming as we're heading into 2020. There's so much kind of stuff coming up, and obviously new simulators as well on the horizon, which we'll talk maybe talk about a little bit later. So before you guys go anywhere, don't worry, there are still plenty more exhibitors to announce over the next few minutes. But before we kind of talk a little bit more about the huge bulk that we have to announce, and trust us, there are loads to kind of talk about in just a moment. We just want to give you a few kind of more details about things such as hotels, things to do around the area, because Vegas is full of entertainment and different opportunities, and also just a little bit about something called Captain's Corner. So Evan, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the hotel itself and maybe some of the activities in the area, especially those with discount options through FSExpo.
Yeah, for sure. So Phil and I were actually just at the hotel briefly to do a quick site walkthrough back in December, so it's all sort of fresh in my mind. And I mean, it's a fantastic location. You're right on the Strip. You've got the MGM Grand, Excalibur, and New York that are all connected to the hotel via aerial walkways right overhead the main Las Vegas Boulevard Strip. Of course, you can walk along the Strip as well to any of the casinos that are nearby. We've worked very hard on a number of really cool attractions nearby. So, of course, you can stay on the Strip, you can go out to the restaurants, you can go to the nightclubs, go to the bars, but there's a lot more to Vegas than just that. So if you want to get outside, there's all kinds of great hiking, there's canyons. Of course, the Grand Canyon is not far away. The Hoover Dam is an easy drive. We've got a cool discount with a zip lining operation, so you can go out into the wild and spend some time outside if you like the heat in the Vegas area in the summer. We've got a deal with the Mob Museum downtown, where you can take a look at some of the history behind Vegas and find out that the criminals ran it just back then the way they seem to do these days if you look at the hotel's prices on certain things. And you know, and all kinds of other great activities like that in and around the area. Great pool, pretty nice gym, lots of restaurants even within the hotel. I mean, you could very easily spend the entire weekend in Tropicana, never leave, have a different meal every day. I mean, it's like a cruise ship, but you're sitting there on the Strip with 100 other cruise ships right nearby.
Awesome. I can't wait. I mean, obviously we went to Vegas a couple of years ago. The entertainment and the environment is crazy. It's just wild. It's undescribable how I can't even describe it.
Exactly. We were there like last time. I think we were there during the Stanley Cup playoffs too, which was cool. So I remember watching a couple of the games in the bars with some of the people before the show, and it's like, you know, here's all these Vegas fans, and they're all like Vegas locals cheering for the Golden Knights, and you're like, this is just so cool. You know, you add that like other element to everything else. So yeah, it's a really great place. And as I say, whether you're, you know, want to go out and party and go to nightclubs, which people did, you want to go outside and do nature things, which people did, you want to take a helicopter tour, which people did, you want to bring your kids and just do more family oriented stuff, there's literally stuff for everybody there. I don't think I mean, I don't really gamble, so I don't think I really set foot in the casino other than just to walk through it on the way to like a restaurant or a pool. But again, there's just so much stuff to do, and then you add the casino onto that, and I mean, what more could you ask for, really?
Well, there's enough out there for me to make a 2-week holiday out of it. So
There you go. Yeah.
no, it's a really cool place, and it's even cooler made by the fact you're hanging out with either long-term friends that you've just ever met online, or people you've met from previous attendance to these shows as well. And I think that's one of the cooler aspects as well. It's more than just kind of a holiday, or a vacation as you would call it, but like it's an opportunity to hang out with some buddies that you haven't probably seen for at least a year.
For sure.
So I just want to mention Captain's Corner. I think it was something that kind of went a little unnoticed last year, and this year I think you've kind of brought it back, and I think it's been further refined based on feedback from like the community who may have attended last year. So I'm just going to run through just some of the people who are presenting and what they are presenting, and maybe you can kind of give a little bit of background afterwards on exactly kind of the concept behind this. So on Friday, June the 12th, as a kind of an additional add-on to the exhibition tickets, you can basically attend a whole bunch of seminars which are they're meant to be a bit more personal, private, and a little bit more focused on specific things. So on Friday, you've got Flight Chops, who is going to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he's going to build a PC on stage.
Yeah, him and also I think someone who actually knows how to like work with computers, because I don't think Steve could do that on his own. But yes, we have a computer expert who's also a friend of Steve's, and they're both flying down, and that's what we're going to try to do anyway in an hour, is take a computer, or sort of take a bunch of parts that we order off of Newegg or something like that online. They'll be in boxes, and the idea is he's going to somehow build that into a computer, we hope, in an hour.
So
yeah, yeah, I know.
That's the first presentation on that Friday. It sounds pretty fun. I can just imagine like a big clock in the corner, like a thriller-esque type kind of show going on. But it sounds really cool. And then following that, you've got Orbex, who I believe are going to talk about kind of scenery development, and in particular using PBR techniques. So obviously this isn't for everyone in the world, this is very specific, but if you have an interest in kind of scenery development or learning a little bit of behind the scenes, then this is definitely something you should be going to see. We've got Real Sim Gear, who are going to talk about realistic hardware for home flight simulation. And also Aerosoft are as well. They're going to be talking about their view on the future of add-ons within flight simulation. And then the Friday afternoon is going to round off with X-Plane 11 talking about the FMC and system operations within X-Plane. So what was the inspiration and idea behind Captain's Corner, and what feedback have you had from it from last year?
Yeah, well, so you talked at the beginning about, this was sort of unnoticed or maybe unannounced last year. We thought we were going to have maybe, I don't know, 100 people that might show up to this last year, and it was going to be a very technical Q&A, very intimate type thing. And then it ended up being 500 people, and it was a full exhibit hall, and we're like, oh, okay, this is fun. So it definitely expanded a lot more than Phil or I thought it was going to last year, and we were really excited to see that. I mean, clearly people wanted that, in depth. Let's talk about scenery. Let's talk about systems. Let's talk about hardware, stuff that would be for the real hardcore simmer who's been doing this for a few years, who knows what they're talking about. They don't necessarily want to hear, an introduction on what hardware is available. They want to know, how can I, spend $20 or $30 and set up what Real Sim Gear can set up. That's the kind of thing that they're looking for. And so what's really great about Captain's Corner this year is, once again, we went out to the community. So we asked for people from anywhere in the world and developers from anywhere in the world to submit their topics and submit their ideas. And then we took those ideas into a survey. We did it on Facebook. We did it on our internal email list of past attendees. And we said, what are the presentations that you guys would like to see? And based on the feedback that we got, what you see is what you get. So again, that real technical, how do I develop scenery, or how can I learn more about how scenery is developed? That real detail on what hardware is available with the X-Plane presentation, how you would go about sort of doing the more advanced airliner stuff. And the Aerosoft one is really interesting, talking about what they think is the future of different add-ons in the simulated world. I mean, we're looking at $100 or $150 add-ons now. Is that sustainable? Can we keep producing those kinds of things, or are we starting to move into the professional market? And then at the same time, you're seeing a lot of these developers that play in both spaces, where they might have a add-on product that we can buy for 50 or 60 bucks, and then they have a professional version for $3,000. But those two are coming together, and sometimes the $50 or $60 one does just as much as you need it to.
Yeah, I think I kind of stepped in a little bit last year and caught some of the tail end of some of the Captain's Corner stuff last year, and it was a very different environment to kind of the big broad announcements, and it was quite intimate, and there was certainly a lot more in-depth information than I think you would get from a typical kind of announcement seminar. So I definitely think they're worth checking out if that's of interest to you. It's $15, I believe, extra to the tickets that you buy for either the Saturday or the weekend, Sunday or the weekend tickets, which you can add on via the website.
Yeah, so you of course do need to register for the actual conference, and we remind people that there's no exhibit hall access on the Friday. It's just Captain's Corner, which is really nice for the people who are presenting. There's no sort of distraction going on with the exhibit hall. But that's right, you can purchase it online with your registration at FlightSimExpo.com, or for people who have already registered and might want to add this on, we can take care of that via email. So like you said, it's a $15 add-on, and we thought about this, in Orlando. We looked at some of the data that we had, and we realized that most of our attendees flew in a day early anyway. I mean, you can't really get there on Saturday morning if you're flying from afar.
Yeah.
So for people who were already there, it was a great opportunity. Let's do something on the Friday afternoon. Now you've had a chance to meet some people, and you've had a chance to see some seminars. You maybe go out for drinks with some of the friends you've made, and it just gives that nice little introduction to the show before you get the full exhibit hall and the full experience starting on Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's a lot slower paced. It's a bit more relaxed compared to then that Saturday rush of like hundreds and thousands of people all turning up. And now it's time to talk about all of the exhibitors that are coming to FlightSimExpo 2020. And just remember, this is the first wave, and there's still plenty more to come in the future. So we've got a quick video highlighting some of the exhibitors that come into FlightSimExpo 2020 this June. Wow, that is a hugely impressive list already, and this is the first wave of exhibitors already confirmed. How do you feel about kind of who's coming so far?
Oh, we're super excited. I mean, here we are, middle of January, and we're way ahead of where we were in terms of exhibitors last year. In fact, this is really not even us doing any outreach at this point. This is just, we opened our registration about a week ago, basically, when this is being recorded. So a week ago, and here we are with what you can see on the screen just a few minutes ago. So we're really excited to see the level of support developers have for the community. And this is developers out there really for the people who are watching this video, who want to be in front of you, want to share the latest developments that they have, share their products, let you get your hands on their hardware, and let you try out their software. I mean, it's just such a great show because of the developers and because of you folks, the attendees. So we are really, really excited about just how many people have confirmed. And again, this is before we've sent any emails out. This is before our phone calls. So we've got lots to come still as well.
And I think what's really exciting as well is that there is just a huge variety of different developers. I mean, I've got the list kind of up here right now. We've got Infinite Flight, who have been really supportive of the show over the last few years. They've always bought tablets and mobile phones for people to just try out the sim, which for me is part of the experience of coming to these shows. We've got 1C Game Studios. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, they've had a really cool display the past couple of years. You may remember there were 2 or 3 different stations, and they had people literally fighting dogfights with, in last year's case, a full motion setup going on as well as VR. So it's IL-2 Sturmovik is the series they usually are there promoting, and it's this really cool sort of military slash civilian aviation simulator that also has this battle type theme to it. So people were literally squaring off one against the other, and you had that up on the screen for people to watch. It was a great display, and I think being actually local to Vegas, the person who's representing them there should have a pretty cool display again this year as well.
Yeah, I remember last year it was really fun just trying that kit out, and again, you can't do that at home, so you may as well just come to the show, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got those guys. We got Thrustmaster, who were at Orlando last year, so this is their second time really exhibiting at FlightSimExpo. If I remember rightly, they had some really great hardware on display, including the pedals, which I think they started discounting. So if you're looking for kind of a bargain, maybe they'll do something similar again this year.
Yeah, Thrustmaster's had some great releases, actually. Both at our past 2 shows now have been the first times anyone in the world could try some of the new Thrustmaster gear. I think the pedals last year, or was it 2 years ago, maybe in the first year in Vegas, but it was like the first time anywhere that you could actually see the pedals. And I don't even know what they are, but I've been told that once again they've got some really new and high quality releases that are planned for Expo, and they won't even tell me what they are, so I don't even know. But there's some exciting stuff coming from them. So again, great opportunity to get your hands on some hardware and see about upgrading your gear.
Yeah, and just along with announcements and stuff, hopefully this year again we'll have a range of speakers and announcements from a range of different developers. Obviously we don't know who those are yet, but as time goes on, I'm sure
I know some of them.
But you're not going to tell us yet, are you?
No, I'm not. Probably like within a month, though. I think we're getting close. Traditionally we've kind of waited until we have enough applications from different speakers and enough developers that have committed to put a schedule out. I think we're actually already at the point where we need to start saying no to some people, so it won't be too
exciting.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly go through a few more kind of standouts from this already huge list. So one of my favorite things about these shows is seeing the guys from all of the online networks, so Pilot Edge, PosCon, VatSim, all controlling and all doing something at the event. I think it's, we spend countless time on these networks anyway at home, but to actually see people doing it live in real time is always pretty exciting. You can see just how much pressure sometimes those guys are under to help pilots out. Some other kind of highlights I want to mention very quickly. TFDI Design, they're always kind of really supportive and fantastic at these shows, and they'll likely be joined by Jetstream Radio as well, who do a really cool job at kind of being a DJ radio station at the show. They're always cool to hang out with and chat and listen to some of the coolest music on the web. a couple of other highlights here. We have Precision Flight Controls, FSElite Control. They always have some really cool software if you're looking to get involved in flight simulation, especially if you're new or you just need some help with kind of practice. GeoFS. So they kind of came in under the radar for me a little bit last year, and they impressed me with their basically what is a simulator in a web browser. I think it's all built in JavaScript, but it's great that they're back, and hopefully they'll be able to continue showcasing some of their exciting developments with their web browser based flight sim, which is bizarre to say, but hey, we're in 2020 these days.
Yeah, there you go.
Is there any other highlights you want to mention just from kind of the list that we've showed off today?
Well, yeah, what's exciting for us is just how many developers there are and the breadth. So you've got hardware, you've got software, you've got different communities, you've got some communities that are non-profit taking advantage of the special deals that we have for groups that don't charge for their services. So we've really tried to make this as inclusive of an event as possible. And again, from our perspective, seeing just the number of exhibitors that are on that map, the amount of people that have committed to the show so far, it's very exciting for us. And I hate to start listing off people because I know some get missed and some get forgotten about, but we're really excited to have just such a variety of exhibitors on the team this year. And I think for attendees, that just makes the experience of the show that much more engaging.
Definitely. And as we keep saying, this is just the first wave. There are still plenty of kind of more opportunities for all the developers to get involved. If you are a developer and you're watching this and you're still on the fence, I mean, just look at the breadth of developers already committed and confirmed. Just look at kind of the excitement from the community as well. And just remember, this is the opportunity to really talk to and engage with the community. And if you're one of the developers who likes to kind of walk around and mingle with the crowd, get a booth. What better way for people to kind of
This is
know
the year.
This is the year. Get a booth.
Yeah, exactly.
People want to come and talk to you. People want to see you as a developer, not as someone kind of in the crowd. And, you know, I've seen it myself. People just want to find you and shake your hand and just say thank you for the products that you put out. So if you are still kind of on the fence and you're considering it, now is the chance. I mean, you've seen the floor map. It's already looking extremely full, so there are limited opportunities left. Which is great news for Evan and co, because it means that they can really focus on making sure this is going to be the best show yet.
For sure. So we're reaching out. I mean, we're sending, we've just started now the process we go through with about 400 names, starting to reach out via email, starting to do the follow-up phone calls. But by all means, the community can play a big part in this as well. And we've seen this before where we reach out one year and an exhibitor says, yeah, maybe next year. Then the next year, they've heard from a bunch of attendees, or they've seen the pictures, or they've seen the videos, and now they're like, yes, we really want to be involved. So if you're an attendee and you're thinking, gee, I really wish that this company was going to be at the show, the best thing you can do for us is to go talk to that company. If you know them personally, great. If you don't, a forum post, a support ticket, an email, a post on their Facebook page. Ask them about if they're coming to the show. Talk to them about your experience. Talk to them about who else is there. Shoot them our information and send them our way, because we'd love to talk to them. But it really makes a difference when they've heard it from their fans, when they've heard it from their customers, that they need to be at this show. I can tell them all I want, but you guys really are the ones who make the difference.
Absolutely. So I think that's going to kind of do us for today. There's a lot of information to take in, and all of the media partners will do an amazing job, I'm sure, at kind of relaying this information to the wider community. Evan, thank you so much for kind of joining me in this very unique video. I've really enjoyed kind of talking and showcasing off all the exhibitors. But before we go, is there anything else you want to say, and maybe just some reminders of dates, tickets, and where people can find out more information about FlightSimExpo 2020?
Well, for sure. Whether you're a developer, whether you're an attendee thinking about going, this is really all of flight simulation in one place in North America. And so it's your best opportunity. If you've never been to a show like this in the past, it's such a cool experience. You'll not understand it until you show up, until you're meeting the people you've talked to online, until you're shaking hands with the developers of the products you love. It's such a cool experience. So for those of you who haven't been before, of course, all I can say is you got to try it to believe it. For those who've been there before, you know what it's like. And so we're working on giving you more developers, more seminars, and more engaging content. And of course, we hope you'll be back. For more information about the show, our website is www.FlightSimExpo.com. The show is June 12 to 14, 2020 in Las Vegas. And of course, you can buy tickets. You can find out about our discounts through various airlines. We've got deals with Delta and Southwest. We've got rental car deals with Enterprise, a whole bunch of deals on restaurants and nearby attractions. All that information is on the website. Send us an email, give us a call, find us on social media, and we'll be more than happy to chat. And of course, looking forward to seeing you in Vegas.
So there you have it, guys. The first wave of exhibitors for FlightSimExpo 2020 has now been confirmed. There are still many months to go, but we're still excited to see who else will attend North America's community-driven conference next June. As always, a huge thank you to everyone involved today for making this happen. Evan, thank you for taking the time from your very busy schedule of being en route in a hotel. But be sure, as always, to keep a close eye on your favourite media partner to keep up to date with all of the latest news. And on behalf of myself, the FlightSimExpo team, and FSElite, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all in Las Vegas.